This year is almost over, but I want to squeeze in one last video. So I've lined up 5 of my best vivarium builds of 2024. But first I want to show you some cool new animals and projects that I've got planned for the next year. A few days ago I went to a reptile fair in Malmo to get some inspiration and some new animals. I had already booked a pair of one of the coolest skinks in the world, but unfortunately something went wrong. The man didn't bring them. Naturally it saddened me, so I had to buy something else of course. So I went for a little stroll to see what the vendors had. Of course we have the standard animals like the leopard geckos, crested geckos, bearded dragons, chameleons, and all kinds of snakes, from fat ones to poisonous ones. A smorgasbord of frogs and other cool amphibians. I even found the isopods I kidnapped from Italy. But then things started to get more interesting. I decided to buy an Asian forest scorpion. I don't know if this is a male or a female, but I need some name suggestions. I also got one of the coolest tarantulas in the world, the Monocentropus balfouri, and I named her Blue because of her blue coloration. And finally, I got 2 types of praying mantis. These animals are now in temporary setups, and in the future I will build bigger and better homes for these beasts. Like this new tank meant for the skinks that I didn't get. Yet. I also have an aquarium right here on the bar, and it's going to be a brackish paludarium for the coolest fish ever. That's just a fraction of the projects that I have planned for the next year. So if you don't want to miss that, it might be advantageous to apply pressure to the subscribe button. That's it for this year. Now let's enjoy my top 5 vivariums of 2024. Adieu. A few months ago, at the entrance of my reptile room, this paludarium, home to my Brazilian rainbow boa, used to look like this. An empty box of glass. I bought this terrarium 12 years ago, and for the past couple of years it's been home to my bearded dragon, Kiwi, who recently got a massive new home. In the meantime, Pamela was growing bigger and bigger day by day.
1, 2, and 3. Yes!
And is now too big for her current home. Luckily, we have an empty box of glass ready to be transformed. I began by resealing the bottom with some aquarium-safe silicone. Using the same silicone, I attached the cork background to the back and to the right side and left everything to cure overnight. The following day, I positioned 2 pieces of glass in a rectangular shape. This will later on become Pamela's pond. I secured the glass in place and added silicone on the inside and on the outside. So it's now the next day and the silicone has cured. Now we're just gonna do a water test just to see if it can hold water or if I have to redo everything. That's 1 liter. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The water seems to be holding. We can hold about 10 liters of water in here. I'm gonna leave it like this overnight. Pamela's enclosure is currently on the floor, just because I don't have any furniture left. I had to steal her furniture for Kiwi's new massive enclosure. But it's just temporary, until I'm done with her new enclosure. Since this is going to be a bioactive setup, and it's going to be pretty humid, we're gonna need a drainage layer. After adding the leca, I remembered that it was very hard to keep Pam from entering the drainage layer. So instead of using leca bolts, we're gonna use these plastic floor tiles. You can put these together however you want. But now we just need to cut it to size. The idea was to create a drainage layer that at the same time serves as a substrate divider. So I lined the floor tiles with some wheat fabric and secured them together with some zip ties. I realized that the floor tiles weren't deep enough, so the plan was to add a thin layer of leca balls underneath. But I don't want the big balls, so I'm gonna sift it through this. In addition, I have these super small clay balls as well. That's much better. I'll just add this little piece. This is Pamela's current setup. And as you can see here, the substrate is pretty damp and it's not very deep. It's like this deep. It's like a finger deep. But with this new tank, it could be much deeper. Look who came out.
This is always fun to watch. Like the Mino always sits here staring at Pamela, which is kind of fun to look at, but at the same time have to be very careful because when Pamela gets older, like when she's fully grown, I don't think she can eat Mino, but she can definitely kill him. Cat really wants to say hello to Pam, but I think if the cat comes near Pamela, Pamela might strike. So you have to stay there, even if you're mad at me. As you can see here, Pamela is getting way too big for this small little enclosure. And Pamela recently shed her skin. She's very beautiful right now. So I have this box here of things that I've accumulated over the past 2 years. And I think I have everything I need to make a perfect bioactive setup. First thing we see here is this Terra basis. 1 forest moss. We also have some pine bark and some organic topsoil. Okay, so first thing that's gonna go in is the moss in some water. Now let's add the moss. Let's go inside.
To keep the water clean and to keep it moving, I need a filter. So I dig through my messy box and I found this old power head. But there was a problem. There was no hole big enough to fit the power plug. So I chopped it off, fit the cable to the ventilation and added a new power plug. Et voilà, we have power.
Okay, so now that we know that the water section is not leaking and we've tested the filter and we have the substrate, it's now time to make this pond look more realistic. So I was up all night thinking about how I could make this look more natural. And I came up with the brilliant idea to cover this all with a thick layer of silicone, and then we take some of this gravel / sand mixture and kind of press it into it. And then I was thinking to incorporate this cork bark to hide the pump. And by the way, Pamela just shed her skin. This is how long she is. She's exactly the length of the terrarium. So this is just enough for her. While the water section is curing, I have to do something that is going to make Pamela extremely angry. I have to steal her hide. I've actually made this hide myself using expanding foam. As you can see here, it didn't turn out great because now you can see all the expanding foam. Oh, Pamela's coming out. She thinks she's going to get fed. This is her hide. I mean, we could just keep it like that, but it's extremely ugly. I think I'm just gonna carve it, smear silicone over it, and then put substrate into it. We just do a time jump. As you can see, the water is now clearing up, and the outflow here is controlled by this thing. If I turn it, we basically have very slow flow now. Let's talk about hardscape. My initial plan was to add this big cork bark. I don't know if I like it. It kind of takes up too much space. I mean, it's nice and all. There's many different ways I can keep it. I could keep it like this, or, you know, all the way up to the top, something like that. And I also have this one that I cut off from this one to make it fit. I could, for instance, keep this one here, and this could serve as a hide somehow. Let's go into the kitchen and see if we can find some plants. In the kitchen, I have this shelf where I keep most of my plants. And in this cylinder, we have some pothos. We have a plant that I do not know the name of, which looks like a tree. I think we even have some aquarium plants in here. tree gives me sort of the bonsai feeling. If you know what kind of plant this is, let me know in the comment section. Before finishing planting the plants, I needed to know where the hardscape would go. Hardscape can be very expensive, especially big pieces of wood. So instead of buying wood, I normally come to this little park where I know the trees. These are elms and oaks. I'm gonna go for a little stroll here around this area and see what I can find. Normally I look for pieces like this where the bark is already peeled off, so I don't have to do the job. Something like this, you know, something that is super dry. See this one? See, there's an isopod here. A little isopod. A big isopod actually. So many options here. This one is just long and thin. This one is a bit thicker. It took me 30 minutes to collect more than I need. And I even collected some oak leaves for leaf litter. Before I can use the wood, I need to properly prepare it. First, I removed all the bark. Then I cleaned it with soap and hot water. And finally, I baked it in the oven at 166 degrees Celsius for an hour-ish. Right, so we're back. It's a little bit dark in here because the lights are off in the reptile room, but show must go on anyway. So I've added a heat light here just to see how hot it is. 35 degrees Celsius, water is at 30 degrees, in the far corner is 25, so I guess this is very good heat-wise. And underneath this black thing, I have a UVB light. Custom built a little screen here. We have this gigantic piece, which is my favorite. I think I want to have it all the way to the back. We can get some plants coming up here. Or, you know what? Maybe the other way around. Yeah, then we can have it like this. And then we have this one. I don't know, I kind of like this. The only thing I don't like is that this tank is super short, you know. It should have been double the size and height so that we could create more climbing space, because I think rainbow boas in the wild, they like to climb. As I said, this is a temporary house for Pamela. She's only gonna be here for a year or maybe 1.5 years. I'm not planning to get more animals at the moment, but I want to upgrade my current animals to bigger and better enclosures. Because one thing I saw when I rehoused Leonardo, my green basilisk, to his new house, he was much more active, much more happy. He was running around, he was swimming. You could see much more happiness in his eyes. I'm really liking this. She could chill here, she could chill here. She have her hide here, she has her hide here. I mean, she even has her own pond with this filter going on, which is very murky at the moment. So I think I'm gonna do a big water change. That's much better. Now we can see what's going on in the water. Now that we have a layout that we like, I can now remove it so we can add more plants, because I really want more greens covering the background. I want it to be dense like that everywhere. In time, the pothos will grab onto the background and climb everywhere. What are you doing? What are you doing, Kiwi? Okay. Leo is looking down at Kiwi like, what the hell is going on here? Kiwi. So I have this Monstera thingy that I want to rescue because it's not doing well over here. In the cylinder, can't really see anything. It's completely overgrown with these floating plants. So we're gonna take some of that and add to the pond. Besides the crab tank by the window, we have this begonia where we possibly could take a little cutting from. Yoink! And of course, in Pamela's tank, we still have some plants that we're going to take. In the corner, we have a bromeliad and a begonia. And then we also have some pothos. Kiwi, that's not your tank. No, Kiwi, that's not your home.
To cover the silicone lines, I used some black adhesive film.
Okay, so let's add Pamela to her new home. I think she's inside the hide. We're gonna give her some privacy. Today is actually feeding day for her. Hopefully we can get some clips of her feeding later.
As you can see here on the beast routine, today is feeding day for Pamela. Every time she strikes, no matter how ready I am, I always shit my pants. Good night.
I just received a huge enclosure for my bearded dragon. It's even bigger than the one I got for my green basilisk. It's 2 meters long, 90 centimeters high, 60 centimeters deep.
This enclosure comes from a Swedish company based in Stockholm called Terrariebyggarna, which translates to terrarium builders. They offer a standard selection of enclosures in various sizes, in black or white. But they can also custom make terrariums specifically for you and your needs. In my case, I had them install a hole up top with a net for the heat light to rest on, rather than having it inside. I also requested an extra window on the side to enhance the overall appearance of the terrarium. And finally, I asked for shorter front panels.
This all comes with an extra cost, but I think it's worth it. Right, Kiwi?
Inside the enclosure down to the left we have 2 holes for ventilation. One in the top right corner, and in the middle we have a hole for cables. And finally, the terrarium comes with 2 sliding glass doors. So if you're in Europe, you can use my code Terraquaman to get a 10% discount. Let's get started on the background.
For the background, I have selected XPS foam. And for the ventilation, I've already pre-drilled some holes.
I'm using aquarium-safe silicone to attach it to the back.
the next day and the silicone has had time to cure. What I want to do now is to add some sort of shelves.
To create these shelves, I'll be using some scrap pieces of foam and attaching them to the background with some wooden skewers. This all looks a bit weird now, but soon I'm going to carve the background using some steel brushes.
The basking spot's gonna be right here. I don't know if this shelf makes sense. I have no idea what I'm doing, to be honest.
Now it's time to bring this background to life. Inspired by the Australian outback, my goal is to mimic its rocky texture. To achieve this look, I'll be using a variety of steel brushes.
It's gonna be easier said than done. When you do stupid shit like this, make sure nobody is home and make sure your cat is locked outside. If my cat was here, he'll probably jump in here and he'll look like this. And that's not good. Alright, so we're done detailing with the background. Over here we're gonna have a big log or a cork bark, so I'm not gonna put any shelves here. On this side, I kinda wanna have some shelves so that Kiwi could sit and enjoy up here or something.
After playing around with the scrap pieces, here's what I finally came up with. The skewers aren't enough to keep the pieces in place, so I used some expanding foam to really secure it to the background. While I waited for it to cure, I used a heat gun to harden the XPS foam.
If you feel it like this, feel that it's very hard. This is rock solid now. Well, not rock solid, but it's going to be.
A few hours later, I could remove the excess foam. Now we are ready to bring some color to this background. The first layer, I'll be using some wood glue and acrylic paint.
I'm also gonna mix in some sand just for texture, you know?
Finally, a splash of water. This makes it go rock solid. I covered the background with a thick layer of the mixture. A few days later, I mixed the same ingredients, but this time with burnt sienna. After applying the second layer, I left it to dry completely. Now it's time for the details. I mixed wood glue with just a dab of burnt sienna and applied a thin layer.
What do you think? You like it? Okay, sorry.
I left the background to dry for a couple of weeks.
So with the background fully cured, I can now add in the substrate and the decor. I recently went to a shop to acquire this gigantic cork bark that I want to incorporate here somehow. And then I have another piece that I could just, have to play around with this a bit. It needs to come up higher here so Kiwi can bask. That's not stable. But I have another piece that I can go and get. Let me just go and grab that. Something like that. Yeah, it's like it's made to be there. All right, so I've played around a bit with the layout, and in the left corner we have this log that I just think it's made to be here. She could enter it from here and then go all the way inside there, and hide. She also has the opportunity to have a sort of a cave system here. I'm gonna put deep substrate in there so she could dig it out and, you know, burrow or like hide out. And I decided to go with a medium log and sort of prop it up with a piece of the big log. And this will be the basking area. You see the basking lights over there. So I have to secure this to the background with some silicone or something so it doesn't fall. Sometimes when you set up an aquarium, you put the soil directly where you want the plants, and then you cover that with the decorative sand. That's kind of my thought process here. But to this mix, we're gonna add some of the clay. This is where kiwi is gonna burrow, and allegedly if you add the clay, the burrow stays intact. So these are two types of grass that I've decided to use for kiwi. Carefully not to damage the roots. So that's one. And just like that, we brought it to life. I stole some of the grass from that side and I'm gonna plant it here. I think it looks nice. Just a little bit of greenery there, and then we have this huge bush area right there. And to cap off the soil, I'm just gonna take some of this light sand. And as for the decorative part, I've chosen this red desert terrarium substrate.
As I was laying on the couch, I noticed that this corner was very empty. It needed some plants. With all the plants in place, the terrarium is now finished, and we can now add the star of the show, kiwi. I want to give a huge thanks to Terrariebyggarna for sending me this beautiful enclosure. Let me remind you that if you're in Europe and you're interested in getting one of these for yourself, you can use my code TerracoMan to get a 10% discount. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Peace. This is my mandarin vampire crab paludarium. It has been running for 14 months now. This ecosystem has produced over 100 baby vampire crabs. It all started with this islandscape mini paludarium that I built for Vladimir and Belladonna. Vlad sadly passed away, but he left us with over 30 babies. So I built them a new home for them to thrive in. One day Belladonna was hanging out by the cave, and what I saw next made me extremely happy. She was once again with child, or should I say with children. I carefully took them out one by one and ended up with over 70 vampire crabs. Vampire crabs are cannibals and they can be quite aggressive, so I had to build them a new home. I built them a little paludarium for them to grow out and to thrive in. Fast forward 6 months, they're now teenagers and needs a new home again.
In this messy corner over here, we have everything that is left over from my green basilisk enclosure. Recently I went to the woods and I foraged some mushrooms and I dried them. I think this would be really cool to integrate to the background. I also found this while foraging, this monstrosity. Let's go over and see how it looks inside the enclosure. As expected, it's way too big. So I was thinking, what if I just take a saw and cut it with an angle like that? Then we could still use this part and we still have this front part. I think that would be a great idea. Okay. Super cool. So now we have this cool looking piece. We also have this that we could integrate somehow also. What do you think, Mino? No? Looks nice. We need to make some big decisions here. The water could go all the way up here, but that's way too high. I think we want it to be 15 centimeters around there. And then we need like another, or maybe even 15 more for the soil. So the soil line would be here, gradually coming down, of course. I need to put a line of tape where the water ends, where the soil ends. Water will be up to here, meaning that the background will be covering all this and all this. But not this side, you're gonna wanna view it from this side. So imagine this fixed into the background. You have plants coming from here, plants behind it, plants in here, plants in here. This branch really caught my eye. I just love the detail and the texture. I kind of want to cut it here or somewhere here so that it could just sit like that. Imagine this like that. And then this one, maybe something like that. Then this one sort of sitting on the soil, maybe with a rock holding it up like that. Just have to cut it here, I think. Something like this. I think it's impossible to do the spray foam background with the tank standing up, so I think I have to lay it on the ground. This is probably a stupid idea.
Easy peasy. Okay, so I'm happy with this layout. I think it looks amazing. And I've got this aquarium safe silicone. I'm just gonna smear a bit on the glass so we have more texture for the foam to fully grab onto. I don't know if it's necessary, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I want this to be majestic. We're now facing a difficult task. Somehow I want to attach this mushroom here, and I'm going to use the remaining bottle of spray foam to create sort of a background on the side. A side round. Create a side round. I have some dried moss here that I want to attach to the background somehow, and I think I'm gonna use the remaining spray foam, spray it and then smear it every way. So let's say I do it here, and then I just do like this, simply like this. My idea was to do this with silicone, but I don't want to do that. Everything will be covered with moss anyway, like real live moss. Okay, we leave it like this and we come back tomorrow and we see if we like it. Right, so I apologize for that. You couldn't really see anything what I was doing. It was very hard to film good angles whilst being covered with foam in your hands. But I've cleaned my hands now and it's been a few hours and I want to see how it looks if I flip it upwards like this. Okay, and the trois. Whoa, whoa, this is a masterpiece, man. I really love the mushrooms here. Imagine this covered with live moss. Yes, you can still see the foam here, but I have a plan for that. Whoa, gotcha, better than I expected. I'm gonna cover the visible foam with a specific kind of clay. And onto the clay, I'm gonna add some different varieties of moss, climbing plants like creeping fig leaf and stuff like that. We're gonna go up here, we're gonna grab our 2-inch brush and really load it with paint, and we make a little crisscross strokes, just like that.
This is your world.
Just gonna make some crisscross strokes and make some indications of a happy little background. Now, take some of that moss and just spread it around. Just like that. There. Before we move on, we have to clean the brush.
If you've painted with me before, you know this is the fun part.
So we're gonna dip it in some odorless H2O, shake off the excess, and beat the devil out of it.
Just beat the devil out of it.
So it's been a couple of weeks now, and everything has completely dried. My beard is also gone, trying out this new look. What I want to do now is just to give everything a good spray. Just make everything moist. Everything looks much better now that it's moist. And I'm also doing this because now we're gonna add moss to the whole background, and it sticks better if it's damp. In this bucket right here I have some moss, and I'm not an expert of moss. I think this is fern moss. And what I want to do is just to place it on the background like that. And in theory it should stick. That's a nice chunk of moss. Yeah, I might have to secure it. Put some in here. I got a new bag here, and this bag is a mixture, but mostly the fern moss. Partially cover everything like this. I need to make some metal pins to pin the moss down. This is stainless wire. Take your scissors and just cut off a piece like that, and then you bend it to make a little pin. Secure it into the background like that. Patch of moss. Just like that. It's secured. This is another type of moss. This one is my favorite. Maybe that's fern moss. Make sure that these are stainless. You don't want any rust in your paludarium. Just like that, everything is coming to life. Now, I don't know about you, but to me this looks amazing. Just with this green, everything was brought to life. Okay, so let's get started on the land area. I'm gonna place a foam mat in the bottom, just to protect the glass. Now we need to add the drainage layer. They say that every rock has a face, and this one do actually literally have a face. My plan is to just chuck them in here, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I kinda like it. Do you like it? I mean, I could stand here thinking about all the aquascaping rules and how they should be aligned perfectly. They need to have the same texture and blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna do that. I just think this looks amazing. Take a step back and appreciate it. Whoa. Wow. I'm just loving this vibe. It really gives me the Swedish forest vibe. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it looks so good. I did this. Me. Let me know what you think so far of this build. Okay, so next step is to add the sand. And since we're not gonna have any plants planted into the substrate, we don't need no aqua soil, we just need normal plain sand. And this could be any sand that you like. It could even be dark sand. But I want to see what happens if I add a light sand to all this darkness. Okay, that's it for now. We're gonna go into the kitchen. In the kitchen, I have these IKEA shelves with two lights going all the way here. So here I have sort of a propagation corner. Now would be a good time to talk about the sponsor of the video, which is Plant That Plant. Plant That Plant is a plant shop located in the heart of Malmö, run by a cool guy called Oscar. He specializes in rare tropical plants, plants that you don't normally see in your local plant shop. On his website you can find all kinds of good deals. Use the code TERAQUAPLANT to get a 10% discount. Like this Ficus pumila. This is also Ficus pumila, but it's like an oak leaf ficus. This is some sort of begonia. This is also another type of begonia. We have a fern here, asparagus fern. So I have to prepare these now, remove all the soil.
So I went to the store and I got some moss. This is Java moss, erect moss. This is Christmas moss. I also got some gel type super glue, which is cyanoacrylate super glue. And once it cures, it's 100% inert and safe for fish and shrimp or crabs. So it's now the next day, and to be honest, I'm completely shocked. This is the best setup I've ever done. I mean, I'm just a simple chef. I am no pro scaper. I've done this for 2 years. I'm just extremely happy about the results. However, it's not done. We have some small details to fix. I want to put some nutrient capsules in the sand and then put small chunks of hair grass here and there. I have a few moss balls in the old vampire crab and some in the OG shrimp tank that I want to steal and glue to these rocks and just place them here and there. And yesterday I also went to the aquarium store and I got this huge Java fern. I'm going to split off in different segments. Have some in the water section, kind of growing out of the water. And I want to try to grow them immersed as well. I want to have a big fern here to cover up that glass.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. I forgot to press record when I added the hair grass.
So it's now been 15 days since I set up the tank, and a few things has changed. I had to remove the mushrooms because they completely molded. I tried to treat them with some vinegar, but they just got worse. So I filled in the gap with some clay and moss and then added 2 bromeliads here.
While I was doing that, I received a phone call from Oscar, and he asked me if I wanted some morning geckos. Of course I said yes, so I rushed over to plant that plant to pick them up.
So here we have number 1. Let's see if we can get her out. Go. Enjoy your new home. This one is a bit bigger.
Jumped on the floor.
So I got it right here in my hand. Wrong way. You're going the wrong way. Okay.
Now it's finally time to catch the crabs and move them into their new home.
So I removed the lid, and as you can see in this corner, you can see that there's a little burrow. There's probably another crab right in there. I can actually see his legs. I don't know if it's visible on camera. There. Oh! Okay, one safely secured. Then we block the entrance. We make him. We got him. These are all the crabs that I managed to find. There's nobody on this rock. Let me see if I can quickly count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29.
31. I'm assuming there's at least another 10 hiding, and I'm assuming a few didn't make it because these little buggers are actually cannibals and they can eat each other even if they're babies. Some of them has probably been preyed upon by their siblings, or they just didn't make it for some reason. Here we have 31 baby vampire crabs, all bred by myself. If we take a closer look at this one, yeah, some cool patterns. Then there's this one that already has some red claws. Yeah, look at that one. Super cool. You must be wondering, what the hell is this big thing pointing at me? Let's go and add them to the new home. I have to be careful when I open this tank because the geckos like to hide right up in here. If I'm not careful, I might squish them, and if I'm not careful, they might escape. Okay, let's get the crabs.
Leopard geckos are undeniably one of the most popular reptiles in this hobby, but believe it or not, I never planned to get one myself. About a year ago, I was given the opportunity to rescue this little guy, Arturo. He's closing in on 14 years of age, and he has had quite the journey, passing through many hands. Many people doesn't realize that leopard geckos can live up to 20 years. I brought Arturo into my home and set him up in a bioactive vivarium that many of you appreciated. However, I think I can do much better. So today I'm building Arturo a new home. This time we're going for a naturalistic woodland look with a unique underground burrow system, proper lighting and automated heating. This was all made possible by Exoterra, who kindly provided me with all the materials needed for this project. So huge thanks to them. Now let's get started and give Arturo the home he truly deserves.
Let's bring everything inside.
You're not supposed to escape me, you know.
Hey, let's do some unboxing. Nicht fallen, don't drop. Okay, got some bubble wrap, even more bubble wrap, and more bubble wrap. All right, we got a wire light. This is for the heat lamp. This is the actual heat lamp. It's a ceramic heater. Then we got a UVB light. We got forest canopy light, 3 of those. We got a thermostat that has a dimming, pulse proportion, day and night timer function. And then here we got some biodrain terrarium draining mesh. 2 of those. This is super exciting. Now this long one, what could it be? This is the canopy top. This is for the LED lights and also for the UVB light. This one is very heavy. This is the substratum, bioactive volcanic substrate. And in here we got the Stone Desert Outback Red. This is a landscaping substrate. You can use it just as a substrate. You can use it to create tunnels or burrows. You just have to try it. So we got the canopy top, the thermostat, 3 of these mamacitas, the UVB, wire light, the ceramic light, drain mesh, the substratum, the Stone Desert soil. I mean, this could just be a thumbnail like this. Let me just quickly remove all this. 1, 2, 3! We got the large and tall natural terrarium with unique ventilation system, new high quality stainless steel from Exoterra. And it looks très bien. I'm not French, by the way. The measurements are 90, 45, 60 centimeters, meaning that it's 90 centimeters long, 60 centimeters high, and 45 deep or wide. And if you are an American, here's the inches for you, 36, 18, 24. Here's the background. This is made out of styrofoam. We have one more package to open, which is the cabinet. Why is it so heavy? Oh, I hate this. Number 1. It's now the next day. I managed to put together the furniture. It took way longer than I had to. I've actually decided to keep the tank here, right next to Kiwi. After many ifs and abouts, as we say here in Sweden, I was actually considering having it here in between Leo and Pam, but it looked a bit weird. And I kind of like sitting here, looking at Pam, looking at Leo, reading a book. I never read books. Anyhow, every Exoterra enclosure comes with this foam background, and there's nothing wrong with it. I just would want to modify it a bit. Kind of like this corner right now with Kiwi here, Arturo here. We have some new paintings here. I might change the content. Why do we have a llama here? The cat is being absolutely useless today. I mean, look at him. He's just laying here. Mino. 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 Leave me alone. Yeah, sure. So how can we modify this, you ask? My plan is to cover it completely with silicone and then press stuff into it. We have all these natural lines here. Why not make them a bit deeper? And then we put soil in between here. And then in the rocks, or whatever you want to call these other parts, we put the Stone Desert substrate. This
this next step is best to do outside. And the first thing we're gonna do is to equip ourselves.
Equip me, sir.
Ciao, Mino. You wanna help me?
Thank you, Mino. Thank you. That's beautiful, Mino. Bravo. But not there, only in the seams. Only in the seams. You're ruining it, Mino. No, and you're eating it. Go away then. Maybe we do a quick pass with the heat gun as well.
I think that turned out pretty great. I'm gonna cover the light part, all these stones, with something called stone desert.
You can create tunnels and burrows with it. Or you can just use it as a substrate.
Or you can use it to cover backgrounds, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. Yes, so let's get to work.
So we take the silicone gun and we smear a generous amount here. Use gloves for this, and we work in areas. So I start with this small area first. And then we take some of this stone desert substrate, which I'm regretting now that I took red. But it is what it is. This is a Australian leopard gecko now. Make sure to really press it. Okay? Then we just repeat that process until everything is covered.
I'm a bit skeptical because I didn't think it was this red, but I'm gonna trust the process. This will turn out well. If not, it's a leopard gecko that went to Australia and visited the outback.
So I'm gonna lift this inside.
We're gonna come back tomorrow.
The whole thing broke in 3 pieces.
This is not gonna ruin my day. The lights are off and Kiwi is looking at me like, I wanna go to sleep, turn off the lights. Let's stop bothering Kiwi and come back tomorrow. So it's now the next day. This is what it looks like at the moment. And it's time to continue with the background. I've brought the enclosure outside, so I'm now gonna silicone it to the back. All you do is flip it, take your silicone gun, be quite generous with the amount of silicone here, so it really sticks. The silicone is quite tacky, so it holds up by itself. Let's do the rest. It's actually quite satisfying. Actually quite pleased with how it turned out. The next step now would be to put silicone in the seams, and then I'm gonna press this terrarium mixture inside the seams so that we can have climbing plants climbing in between all these rocks. Now we can close the doors. I'm gonna leave it like this for a while and have breakfast, and then I come back and check on it. So it's been a couple of hours and I think the silicone has dried. It's definitely not cured, but I think it's dry enough for me to be able to flip the enclosure. I am pretty pleased with this. I think I have to leave this here for a couple of days, let it cure fully. The silicone smell is pretty bad. So it's now been 4 days since we built this background. It still smells a little bit like silicone, but it's definitely cured. But I want to bring it inside and we're going to continue with this build. Don't do this at home. So underneath Leo's tank, we have all the supplies. And the next step will be to install the compact top with the 3 lights and the UVB light. This is basically a terrarium canopy where you can fit 4 lights. We've got 3 LED lights here. This is for tropical plant growth. I guess we can use it for a normal terrarium like this as well. Super nice sleek design, you know? But I think we need to keep it in the front because we're gonna have the heat light here. So this one is gonna go here. The light can twist on the socket, so you can angle the light wherever you want it, you know. And now I screw it on. And now I can angle it down. And lastly, the UVB light. Alright, so let's test it. We have two switches here. What happens if I do this? Switch on these two. And then the second one. That's super bright. The next thing we're gonna install is this wire light with the ceramic heater. Every bioactive terrarium needs a drainage layer, and we're going to use this substratum. It's a bioactive volcanic substrate. It says here that it keeps the terrarium clean and healthy. It's a natural bioactive soil with live beneficial bacteria. It eliminates ammonia and odors. It has great drainage capabilities, and it's ideal for bioactive planted terrariums. For this next part, we need to go into the kitchen. Let's mix the stone desert. Start with a low amount. To a kilo-ish, I'm gonna add 1 hipster jar of water. You can already see it's starting to become clay-like. I'm gonna add just a little bit more. I think we added too much water. So about a kilo, a hipster jar of water, and 3 handfuls extra, and we're at this consistency. On top of the substratum, which is a very good name by the way, the guy who came up with that name should have a raise. We're gonna place this floor tiles, just so we have a hard surface where we could build the caves and the tunnels, you know? And on top of the floor tiles, I'm gonna put this bio drain. And we simply place that on top of the floor tiles and on top of the substratum. Now comes the fun part. We're gonna blow some balloons. I've seen some videos on YouTube of people using balloons as support for the caves and the tunnels, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. These long... What? We're gonna use the long ones to make the tunnels and normal ones to make the hides. It's impossible to inflate them using your lungs. My brilliant mind came up with this idea. Now watch this magic. I think that's long enough. Let me check. Gonna need it to be a little bit longer. These 3, I will tape them together and this will be the tunnel. So that's our tunnel. So 1 cave will be here and 1 cave will be here and then the connective tunnel. Let me substitute this one with this one. Now it's a bit too long. Okay, so after many failed attempts, I think I have found the perfect size. First of all, I think it's important that we build the foundation. I have a dab here of the Terra bases.
really gives me the Tatooine vibe, you know, Star Wars, Luke Skywalker's home. I'm gonna leave this to dry. I think this is gonna take at least a couple of days before it dries, maybe even more, maybe a week, I don't know. One thing I didn't think about is how the hell am I gonna get substrate inside the tunnel? I guess I should have put the substrate before I added the clay. So it's now the next day and we have a problem. The tunnel has cracked here, here, and here. It hasn't cracked here, I guess because it's thicker. But other than that, it seems to be holding up, seems to be pretty sturdy. But I think I have to pop the balloons and try to fix this issue. That was a buzzkill. I can now take this opportunity to shape everything a little bit better. Let's see if this balloon will pop. Not really. I must say I'm really liking how it's turning out. Of course this is not how it's gonna look in the end. This is just the infrastructure for the leopard gecko to have something to hide in. But yeah, it's holding up pretty nicely. It's very sturdy, it's very hard. I don't think it's gonna collapse. So now the next thing would be to add substrate in the tunnels, which is going to be very challenging. It's a mixture of sand, topsoil, and a little bit of moss. The goal now is to get it inside of the cave. I'm gonna do that using a little spoon. Yeah, so that's one cave filled now with substrate. I tossed a little bit here on the actual structure, and I think I'm gonna do the same a bit everywhere. This is gonna be the humid hide. I'm also gonna add some moss in here, you know. Yo, so with the substrate in place, it really made a difference. It went from looking like something out of Star Wars to, yeah, something still out of Star Wars, but it looks 10 times better with the substrate on top of it. Yeah, so we got the humid hide, we got the tunnel connecting it, we got an entrance to the tunnel there, and then we got the tunnel that finally gets to the, yeah, I guess, warm hide. So speaking of warmth, right on top of it we have the heat bulb that I initially had placed resting on top of the net. It wasn't emitting enough heat, so I modified it a bit. I had to modify the cage for it. So I cut off 2 sections of it. I made a little hole through the net and then fit the bulb through it. And the remaining metal cage is holding it in place. However, we got no control of it now. If it gets too hot, we might burn the gecko. Which is exactly why I think it's a good idea to have a thermostat. Here I've got the thermostat 600. We can dim it and it also has the pulse proportional function. That means that if... I don't know what that means. Okay, so let me explain. The thermostat actively pulses the heat source to keep the desired temperature constantly. This is the most accurate function. If it's too hot, it pulses it up to the right temperature. And the same thing, I guess, if it's too cold. It has a day and nighttime function, so I can choose the daytime temperature, but also the nighttime temperature. So it's never too hot, it's never too cold in here. It's just the perfect temperature always. So let's open it. Whoa. It's just this little device here. And it has a little probe, so this one goes where you want the temperature to be controlled. I guess this is where you connect the light, and this is where you connect the electricity. Okay, so the thermostat is on, and I fit the probe through one of the ventilation holes here. The probe is now right on top of the cave. I'll just have to fix the cable somehow. So now you connect your heat source to the thermostat. And now we just have to figure out how this works. Press and hold the T button. We should hold it for 4 seconons. Press the T button, now we'll start. Okay, so if we twist this little, what time is it now? So what does this mean? Okay. I have to get some help.
Next, what we're going to do is set the clock so that the thermostat knows what time it is. Okay.
I got it now. So first, I had to set what time it is. It's 2, and then I had to set what time daytime starts, 7 o'clock. And I want it to be 30 degrees. And the moon is nighttime, it starts at 9. The moon temperature, we want it to be 22 degrees. And since the probe thinks it's 28 degrees, it's dimming up because it's heating here. We want it to be 30 degrees Celsius. That was the last boring thing we had to do. Because now we've come to the fun part, which is decorating the vivarium. And I've got this huge piece of wood that I think I want to keep here. And I have another one and I want to overlap with this one, creating a little platform. Yeah, I'm really liking that. So this will be the main structure. I might add some more wood here, maybe something coming out here as well, maybe some small pieces in the future. But for now, we're going to keep it like this. And now let's get to planting.
So I've got this gigantic fern. This is probably my favorite plant. I've split it up into two segments. I don't know if I should have the small one here and then the big one here. Let's take a step back and see what it looks like. Yes, I'm really liking that. The green is really bringing everything to life. Just want to put some pothos in between the lines here and see what that looks like. And here I got this super long pothos. There we go. We got a little root here going on as well. And the plan is to plant it here so that it can go here, behind here, and then up there.
I can already hear people saying in the comment section that this is way too humid for a leopard gecko. So let's hear what Ricky Johnson from Herp HQ has to say about that.
In 2009, Mohammed Sharif Khan published a study showing his observations of wild leopard geckos, including habitat images like this, which shows a dried up but certainly not dry and dead. He also describes the effect of monsoon rains. So these geckos experience times of year with extreme moisture and air humidity of 70 to 80%. Another study in 2019 by a group of Nepalese researchers discovered a few individuals in Nepal in lush habitat that at times reached as low temperatures as 5 degrees Celsius. They were also found 1.5 meters above the ground within a dead tree. So how did you imagine leopard gecko wild habitat prior to this video? Dry, sandy and rocky? This is where they were found. Once again, relatively lush habitat with lots of foliage and no small amount of water. Water isn't the problem. Enclosure design is.
Once upon a time, this tank was nothing more than a forgotten world, a place overtaken by algae and neglect. The fish, however, were thriving, but the aquarium itself was lifeless and dull. What if you could take something dead and breathe new life into it? What if beneath the surface you could unlock something mysterious, something alive, something filled with possibility? This tank was more than just an eyesore. It was a challenge waiting to be taken. First step is to install the base for the background, and I've chosen cork bark that I'll attach using some silicone. I know it looks a bit weird, but none of this is gonna be visible in the end. I've always wanted to make a paludarium with a waterfall, so here I'm reinstalling the original filter box that came with the aquarium. This will be a stone-only hardscape, and I found some amazing rocks that are perfect for just this. To protect the glass, I'm laying down some filter sponges as I scape.
So the idea is to build a retention wall that's gonna hold back the substrate and all the land area. I thought it would be fun to include a cave in the water section. I'm gonna have this plant light right here, so I do have to have that in mind when I'm scaping.
To hide the blue filter sponge, I'm adding in some of the old aquarium gravel. I'm blocking the intake to the pump with a net to prevent any small creature from entering the filter. I then began the horrible part of gluing all the rocks in place, and for this I'm using black aquarium safe silicone. Now I need to build inwards and create a little land area right here.
So it's now the next day. I'm seeing everything with fresh eyes and it's really coming together now. I mean, yes, you can see all the glue, but that's going to be covered with small rocks and some plants, you know, mosses and stuff like that. So the plan is that the water is going to fall down here and then trickle down into the water. So now I need to build up the east wall in an L shape like this and then connect the east wall to the west wall, you know, so we build a cave here with the light inside. Okay, let's see. This is where we turn it on. Then we have a few functions here. Green, red, orange, blue, purple. This is the normal one. We have a timer for 6, 10 and 12 hours.
Now it's time to do something about that cork background. I'm gonna cover it completely with water lily clay. Water lily clay is often used in ponds for lilies. Simply mix it with water to get the desired consistency, and then smear it all over the cork bark.
Now it looks 10 times better. But imagine it being covered with moss.
This day is almost over, but before I leave I'm gonna prep the pump with some filter floss. And then the actual pump itself, it's the old power head that came with the aquarium. Before I'm adding it to the filter box, I'm adding a piece of tubing.
This has kept me up at night. I'm so scared to fill this thing up with water because I'm scared that it might collapse. Yeah, I stirred up the sand. Okay, moment of truth. Okay, so the flow is definitely too strong. And I really like how it's trickling down. I put some filter floss inside the tube and now it's perhaps a bit too weak, but we're getting there, you know? That's a bit better.
As the water is clearing up, I'm gonna add the substrate divider, followed by the substrate, which is a mix of topsoil, sand and dried moss. You can see here that the substrate is already seasoned, with springtails and isopods. With the substrate in place, it was now time to visit the forest to collect some moss. To attach the moss, I simply press it gently into the wet clay. And off camera I added some metal wire pins to really keep it in place. Another plant that I like to pick in the forest are ferns. They're definitely my favorite plants. Just make sure that it's allowed to pick them where you are. As I was planting the ferns, I realized I didn't have enough plants. So I ordered a whole bunch of them and called it a day.
And perfect timing because I have just received the plants. Or plants. We have two F. villosa, Acravia grön. It's the Ficus pumila quercifolia and the Ficus punctata. So everything was very neatly packed, but if you... But I don't like that they, laid everything down so the soil is everywhere. Man, come on, man. The f is this? Apart from everything being covered in soil and the plants were upside down, I guess it's hard to ship plants and have them neatly packed. But yeah, other than that, they seem to be very high quality and they seem to be doing well. So my goal is now to keep them alive until it's time to plant them.
Whoa! I can't believe how good this looks. This is my best work so far. I can't wait to plant this area as well. But there's a problem.
So the waterfall is spilling over into the land area. So I'm thinking I cannot have the same substrate as I have in here, in the land area over there. But instead I'm going to use aqua soil. Aqua soil can be soaked in water and have plants in it, so it doesn't matter. I saw this on a channel called Terrarium Design. He had the same issue with the waterfall spilling over into the land area. But he addressed that issue with aqua soil.
Yes, we're almost done here. It's looking amazing.
I'm really happy to see everything evolve here. So I was sitting over there enjoying my lunch and I noticed that the tank is all fogged up now. That's because we have basically no ventilation here. This is not meant to be a terrarium, this is meant to be an aquarium. Now there's one last thing I want to do before I leave, and that's to add springtails. Since we got all this condensation on the glass, I'm worried that everything will mold.
Now it's time to bring the waterfall to life with some aquatic moss.
So it's now been over a week since I built this paludarium and a few things has happened. For one, I increased the water flow in the waterfall, so now we really have a good trickle that I'm happy with. Second of all, I added a small little power head just to keep the water moving, and I think I'm gonna remove it once everything is established.
We also had a lot of brown algae like diatoms on the glass that I have removed now, and I did a huge water change. I even brought the water level up slightly, so we have a little bit more water now in the tank.
And since there's a lid on this aquarium, we have a lot of condensation, which caused this plant to mold completely and lost a few leaves. I don't know if it's gonna recover or I have to remove it. So today's job is to complete the water section with plants. Alltså. You. Fucking. Let's try that again. Another clump here. Now finally, let's add in the salvinia. So I'm on my way now to my vampire crab's house. No. I'm on my way now to my parents' house, and today's the day we're gonna introduce the vampire crabs. And I actually have the tank right here with me. As you can see, I have the safety belt on. Anyway, I probably shouldn't do this while driving, so I see you when I get there. So I'm at my parents' house now, and I forgot the SIM card to my camera, so I have to use the phone for this. I actually haven't seen the tank for 2 weeks now, so let's see what it looks like. And the first thing we see is condensation. So I have to open it up to let the condensation out. The second thing we can see here is all this algae on the glass. There's nothing here, there's very much here. This means that the light is way too powerful. We have to do some maintenance here. We have to clean all the algae, clean the glass. We have to do a water change. And then we can add the vampire crabs, the fish and the shrimp. And by the way, I didn't add these snails. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 snails. But I didn't actually add them. They came in with the plants. So what I've done up here with the light is that you can twist these. See, now we have a lot of light. But if I twist this all the way to the land area, where we actually want most of the light, I think it's decent now. Okay, so I got the SIM card and the tank is looking very good. But if we take a closer look, you can see that that moss right there is covered with algae diatoms. But this is normal, you know, this is a startup phase. I think these are diatoms at least. Look at that booze all covered with algae. And these two guys right here are fighting the algae as well, but they need some backup. So today is very exciting because we're gonna add 2 types of shrimp, 1 type of fish, and 4 vampire crabs. I have the hospital tank here with me, but those of you that doesn't know what the hospital tank is, it's just a little setup that I set up for 2 vampire crabs that lost their claws. So it's a little space where they can chill out, I can monitor them, I can feed them by hand. The plan was for them to regain their claws. I originally thought there was a male and a female, Ignacio and Cosima, but it turned out to be both males. One of them regained all their limbs, all their claws, and the other one regained everything except 1 claw. And then the other day when I was cleaning the nursery, I found 2 female crabs that were basically teenagers. Let's go. The fish all went inside the cave. Let's see when they come out. The snail finally got the backup he needed.